Ready? 3, 2. That was Mariah Carey. We belong together. The question I've had a change of heart. I used to believe that one of the reasons that Black history was under assault in many states across the country was because a lot of people were ashamed, particularly certain groups of people were ashamed of what their children would find out, the brutal things they had done in history, all the things, the ways that they had demeaned, and the things that were counter to the platitudes that they always banter about. The fact that, we have these documents that say all men are created equal, except that at that time there were men who clearly were not. I used to believe that they were afraid that their children and grandchildren would know how brutal they were. But I've come to a different estimation now. I hear a lot about diversity and equity these days, where people are saying there were these unqualified people of color that caused all these things. And I can say this, I remember somebody went so far as to say that when they get on a plane, they wonder if the Black person is qualified. I have a different reaction. When I get on a plane, I know what that Black person has been through. When I see a white guy, I often wonder who hooked him up. Or was he a legacy? Because even if you look at what is happening in our Ivy League schools, there are way more people who are legacied than whoever are approved, Black people or brown people who get a scholarship to go to those, or even accepted into those institutions of higher learning. There are people who have been there for 5 and 6 and 7 generations, and they got to go because their fathers and mothers did. What I think now, as opposed to what I used to think, was that our history was under assault because of what it demonstrated about them from a brutality perspective. I don't think so, because if they were so afraid of us finding out how brutal they were, they wouldn't fight so hard to keep the monuments of brutality. It's almost like being ashamed that you were a domestic abuser, but keeping the bandages and the police reports around. Even as early as last week, the 29th, there was a governor, Tate Reeves, who wanted Confederate Day to be a national day, Confederate Day, which is a celebration of their brutality that we were just discussing. I think that what has happened, more than anything else, because I think that there's a certain amount of gratefulness they have that they had people who were that brutal, because they enjoy the accoutrements of that brutality as we speak. What I think it is now is I think that it flies in the face of American exceptionalism. They believe they've held this notion of American exceptionalism, and look what we did and that we built this country. But if you look at every turn when America was becoming America, there were brown and black and red and yellow hands that did it. If you look at how America first became a power, it was black hands that did it. If you look at the infrastructure that binded it together, it was brown hands, it was yellow hands, it was immigrant hands that did it. So there was very little that they could claim. When they tell you they built America, they might as well say they supervised. So I think more than anything else, they want people to know, and everybody was lazy. Remember how that was the moniker about everybody. Oh, Mexicans are lazy, or black people are lazy, or these people, or Indians are lazy, or these people are lazy. And in actuality, what they did was they brought in a bunch of people who did the work that they could not or would not do. And now, instead of being grateful, they're trying to mitigate history, because it would show people how inconsequential they were to building America. At every turn, they had clipboards, not shovels and hammers. They had whips, not mules and shovels. They were supervisors, whereas other people actually did the work. And they have the nerve to talk about diversity and equity. If there were no diversity, there wouldn't be no America. From the beginning, they had the chance to be a homogeneous society. What did they do? They brought in everybody else to do the work for them. They're not ashamed of the brutality they meted out. They're ashamed of how inconsequential they will be seen as if people knew the truth. They supervised. They didn't build. They brutalized. They didn't build. The story of America is the story of other hands. The story of America, the only thing generally they use those hands for is to brutalize and to rewrite history wrong. That's a little note from the GED section. Got the jazz report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show. All right.